When I was little, a barber suddenly visited my family shop. He said coldly, the third person to enter the shop will be a ghost. After saying that, he left. Grandma asked, bewildered, Grandpa, can we trust the barber's words? Grandpa replied, better safe than sorry. When the third person enters the shop, we'll chase them away. No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than the village chief walked in. The village chief's face was covered in black soot, as if burned by fire. Grandpa asked Chief, what happened to you? The chief snapped, don't even ask. Something happened at the entrance of the village. A car caught fire. I helped put it out, so I got covered in ash. Grandpa stood still for a few seconds, then asked, whose car was it? Is anyone alive? It was burned to a crisp. Someone just saw a car driving straight into a cliff, bursting into flames. The person inside couldn't escape. When I arrived, the car was completely incinerated. Only a charred corpse remained. You had to look very closely to tell it was human. The village chief finished speaking, sat down and continued, 4 dishes as usual. Serve them quickly. I have things to do later. Grandpa and Grandma exchanged glances, their eyes filled with dissatisfaction. The chief often comes to our house to eat, but never pays, always running up a tab. Grandpa forced a smile. Chief, it's still early morning. Our shop only has steamed buns and porridge ready, no savory dishes. Perhaps you'd like to have a little of that for now? As soon as he finished speaking, the chief's face darkened. He stammered, I never said I wouldn't pay. Go cook it now. Grandpa's smile froze. He chuckled faintly. Chief, it's a bad harvest this year. Everyone is struggling. We truly can't extend any more credit. If you pay cash, I'll cook it right away. The chief narrowed his eyes, a strange smile on his face. But that doesn't affect your business, does it, Mr. Cool? 30 years ago, our village suffered 3 years of continuous drought. All the other shops closed, but yours remained open, selling meat. Mr. Cool, you're a capable man. Surely you wouldn't deny me a piece of meat now. Hearing this, Grandpa's eyes widened. Chief, I've forgotten all about the past. Just surviving that drought was a miracle. The chief curled his lip. Mr. Kui, if it weren't for you giving me that piece of meat back then, I would have starved to death. I never forgot that kindness. If only my mother were still alive. She fled the famine that year. I wonder if she's still around. As he spoke, the chief stared intensely at Grandpa. Grandpa forced a smile, trying to avoid his gaze. He said awkwardly, if Aunt G were still alive, she'd be nearly 100 by now. The chief's face darkened. Mr. Face darkened. Kui, when my mother was alive, she treated your family so well. How can it be that now I can't even get a meal here? And it's not like I'm not paying. Grandpa frowned. Chief, wait a moment. I'll go cook something. As soon as he said this, Grandma cast a quick glance at Grandpa and whispered, Grandpa, we don't have much savory food left. Grandpa sighed helplessly. Grandma, I'll go to the backyard to cook. You watch the shop. Don't let the third person in. Grandma nodded. Yes, I remember. After giving his instructions, Grandpa went to the backyard to cook. The chief said, "Sister, get me half a catty of white liquor." Grandma's face was displeased. She took half a catty of liquor and handed it to the chief. The chief grinned. "Sister, your liquor is so fragrant. Not just people. Even ghosts would be lured into your shop by this aroma." No sooner had he finished speaking than there was a loud crash of thunder. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark, and a cold wind swept into the house. Grandma was about to close the shop when Chen walked in. Chen's eyes were rolled back, ghostly white, and his clothes were filthy, covered in mud, as if he'd just crawled out of a pile of dirt. Grandma said, "Chen, why are you only just arriving now? Usually, you're the first one here for breakfast." Chen's eyes rolled back. He said in an annoyed tone, "I had just left my house this morning when a car hit me and threw me into a ditch. It took all my strength to crawl out. I don't know which bastard hit me." Chen was nearly 50 and childless. The elders in the village said he used to be able to see, but a high fever had left him blind. No sooner had Chen finished speaking than the chief chuckled. "You fake blind man, you should light incense and celebrate that the car didn't kill you. This morning, right at the village entrance, a car caught fire, and the person inside was burned to ashes." A fleeting look of astonishment crossed Chen's face. He said, "Someone who dies so unjustly will have heavy resentment and will seek a substitute. You must invite someone to perform a proper ritual for their soul to find peace." The chief laughed. "We don't even know who died. How can we perform a ritual? Just bury them casually somewhere behind the mountain." Chen frowned. Doing that could easily turn them into a jiangshi, hopping vampire. The chief said, "It's fine. They're burned to ashes. There's nothing left." Chen remained silent. He turned to Grandma. "Sister, give me 2 vegetarian steamed buns and a bowl of corn porridge." Grandma replied, "Okay, I'll go get them from the back of the house." With that, Grandma went to the backyard. Only Lily, Chen, and the chief remained in the shop. Chen's ghostly white eyes darted around twice, looking somewhat eerie. The chief chuckled and asked, "You fake blind man, can you see anything?" Chen bared his teeth in a grin, revealing yellowed teeth. Although his eyes were still rolled back, I had a feeling he was staring intently at the chief. It was as if he could see the chief. Chen said, "No, I see nothing. Not even a sliver of light." The chief laughed. "Then you're doomed. You have no idea who hit you. Even if that person stood right in front of you, you wouldn't recognize them." As soon as the chief finished speaking, Chen's face changed. He said, "I'm blind, but my ears are sharp. When he hit me, he uttered a phrase. If he stands before me and says that phrase, I will recognize him." When Chen said this, he was stern, his voice filled with a murderous resentment. The chief said, "Even if you did recognize him, what could a blind man like you do?" Chen was silent for a few seconds before answering coldly, "I will kill his entire family." No sooner had Chen finished speaking than there was a loud crash. Another peal of thunder. Immediately afterward, heavy rain poured down. The sky outside had grown dark, looking truly cold and desolate, with an indescribable strangeness as if harboring a hidden danger. I unconsciously looked at Chen. His face was stern, looking very frightening. I then looked at the chief. A smile played on his face, but a closer look revealed a sharp, cold gaze, as if filled with some unspoken discontent. As if the chief noticed me looking, he suddenly raised his head and met my gaze directly. He forced a smile and said, "A fair-skinned child like Lily here. In a year of drought, she'd be worth at least 2 catties a flower." No sooner had the chief finished speaking than Grandpa entered the shop, carrying the savory dishes. He placed 4 savory dishes in front of the chief and said with a smile, "Chief, the dishes are all ready." The chief picked up his chopsticks and flipped the fish head, snapping, "Mr. Kui, I wanted a 1.8 catty fish. Is this fish even 1.8 catties?" Grandpa forced a smile. "This is the only live fish we had left, Chief. Please make do with it for now. Next time, I'll definitely get you a fish that's a full 1.8 catties." The chief pouted, clearly reluctant. "Fine, this will do for now." Grandpa gave an apologetic smile to the chief, then brought the steamed buns and porridge to Chen. The chief asked, "Mr. Koo, I heard your son, Alex, is making good money in the city and even bought a car. When will he drive it back for everyone to see?" At the mention of my uncle, Grandpa showed a hint of pride. "Don't listen to gossip. The money Alex earns isn't even enough to get married, let alone buy a car. If he really used his earnings to buy a car, living so foolishly, I'd break his leg." The chief grinned broadly. Young people these days, as soon as they have a little capability, they buy a car. Not in a hurry to get married. Grandpa chuckled in response. "How can buying a car be as important as getting married? To me, a horse-drawn cart in the yard is good enough." No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than a dazzling flash of lightning lit up the sky again. Grandpa looked outside and said, "It's really raining heavily today. It's morning, but outside it's as gloomy as dusk, looking so cold and desolate." Chen took a bite of his steamed bun and said coldly, "The gloomy rain, heavy with resentment. It's not good weather at all." As soon as Chen finished speaking, the rain outside grew even heavier, falling so thickly it seemed to steam. Grandpa's expression was complex. "With rain this heavy, I doubt anyone else will come." No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than Grandma came into the shop from the backyard. She walked over to him and whispered, "Grandpa, the weather isn't good today. Why don't we close the shop now and not wait for a third person to come in?" Grandpa was stunned for a few seconds before saying, "The rain is heavy, but it won't last all day. It's too early to close now. Let's wait a little longer. When the third person comes, we just won't let them in. We'll chase them away, and that'll be that." As soon as Grandpa finished speaking, footsteps echoed from outside the shop. Very familiar footsteps. I glanced out and saw my uncle, Alex, standing at the door, completely soaked from the rain. Grandpa and Grandma looked at each other, their eyes wide with astonishment. Grandma said, "How can Alex be the third person to enter the shop?" Grandpa was momentarily stunned, then asked, "Alex, are you human or ghost?" My Uncle Alex's face was filled with panic. He rushed into the shop, his eyes wide with fear, as if he had just encountered something terrifying. My uncle said, "What are you talking about, Dad? Of course I'm human. Why are you suddenly asking that? Grandpa replied, a barber came this morning. He said the third person to enter the shop would be a ghost, and you're exactly the third person. My uncle, Alex, pouted and said irritably, "What era is this that you still believe such words, Dad? That barber is just a swindler, spouting nonsense." Grandpa frowned and asked, "You were fine in the city. So why did you suddenly come back today?" My uncle's eyes darted around, as if he was hiding something. He forced a smile and said, "I suddenly decided to come back, so I didn't have time to tell you both." Grandpa froze for a few seconds and asked, "From town back to the village? Dozens of miles of mountain roads. How did you get back?" In the past, whenever my uncle returned, Grandpa would always take the horse cart to town to pick him up. My uncle frowned and said irritably, "I hitched a ride with a villager's horse cart. Please don't ask any more questions." No sooner had my uncle finished speaking than the chief chuckled. "Alex, have you bought a car yet? Have you bought a car yet? I heard you're making pretty good money in the city, aren't you?" My uncle looked towards the chief and said with a smile, "Chief Wook, here for a meal? I did buy a car in the city. It's brand new. Guess how much it cost?" My uncle finished speaking, then walked towards the chief and sat opposite him. The chief chuckled. "I can't guess." My uncle held up 5 fingers towards the chief and said, "I bought the most expensive, the best kind." The chief said, "Why didn't you drive it here?" No sooner had the chief finished speaking than the smile on my uncle's face froze. He said with annoyance, "The mountain roads in our village are too bad, not suitable for driving a car. It's easy to overturn." The chief nodded and said, "This morning, at the village entrance, a car burned. Entrance, a car burned. And the person inside was burned to ashes." No need to say how tragic it was. No sooner had the chief finished speaking than my uncle's expression became unnatural. He turned his head to look at Grandma and said, "Mom, get me some clean clothes. I'm going upstairs to change." Grandma said, "The clothes are already in your room. Go change." My uncle said, "Mom, cook me some more rice. I'm hungry." My uncle finished speaking and went up to the second floor. Chen happened to be sitting next to the stairway door on the second floor. As he passed by Chen, my uncle suddenly froze, his eyes filled with fear. Chen seemed not to notice my uncle, continuing to eat his porridge. Cold sweat poured down my uncle's face. Grandma, seeing my uncle wasn't well, said, "Alex, what's wrong?" My uncle signaled her to be quiet, carefully moved away from Chen, and then rushed to Grandma's side. Grandma, looking utterly bewildered, asked Alex, "What's wrong with you?" My uncle said, terrified, "Mom, when did Chen arrive?" Grandma said, "Just this morning." My uncle's eyes were wide with unspeakable fear. Grandpa also noticed my uncle seemed unwell and quietly asked, "Alex, what's wrong? Are you hiding something from the family?" My uncle trembled all over and said fearfully, "Dad, Chen is dead." No sooner had my uncle finished speaking than there was a loud crash. The thunder was so tremendous it made the window panes rattle violently. Grandpa immediately widened his eyes and said, "Alex, what are you saying? Chen is alive and well. How could he be dead?" My uncle trembled all over, his eyes fixed on Chen's back. Suddenly, Chen turned his head to look. His ghostly white eyes rolled back, looking very eerie. Chen said, "Is Alex back? I hear a voice that sounds a bit like him." Chen finished speaking and bared his teeth in a grin, revealing yellow teeth. His smile looked chilling, gloomy and cold, as if he was calculating something, radiating a sinister aura. My uncle was so scared his eyes widened and his whole body trembled. My uncle said, "Mom, Dad, run." As soon as he finished speaking, he went to push the shop door. But the shop door seemed to be locked shut. He couldn't push it open. My uncle immediately became more panicked, shouting, "Help! Help!" Grandpa slapped my uncle. His face grim, "You fool! If you want to live, shut your mouth." Grandma's eyes were filled with terror. She also tried to push the door several times, but it wouldn't budge. Grandma said fearfully, "Grandpa, what is this? It's too eerie." Grandpa replied in a gloomy voice, "There's a ghost in the house. No one panic." Grandpa finished speaking and forced a smile. "Chen, do you want more steamed bun?" "There are still some in the backyard." Chen chuckled twice and said, "I want meat-filled steamed buns." As Chen spoke, a peal of thunder rang out. My uncle was so scared, his legs turned to jelly, his eyes wide, and he stammered, "Dad, is Chen? Ah." No sooner had my uncle finished speaking than Chen's ears twitched. He chuckled. "Is Alex back? The voice sounds like him." Grandpa glared at my uncle, signaling him to be silent. My uncle nodded, his eyes full of fear, and quickly covered his mouth with his hands. Grandpa gave a dry laugh. "The meat buns are in the backyard. You can go get them yourself." Chen often came to our house to eat, and whenever the shop was busy, he would go to the backyard to get his own food. Even though he couldn't see, he always got the right item. Because of this, Grandma always said Chen could actually see and was just faking blindness. They even blamed him for stealing when things went missing from the shop. Chen said, "Mr. Kue, it's not busy today. Why are you telling me to get it myself? What if something goes missing in the backyard? How would I explain?" Chen said this with a strange smile. Grandpa and Grandma looked at each other, their eyes wide with alarm. Seeing Grandpa's silence, Chen laughed loudly. "Mr. Koo, I'll go to the backyard to get the buns. You just keep busy." Chen went to the backyard. When Chen was gone, my uncle finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. He pushed the door with all his might, but it still wouldn't open. My uncle stamped his foot impatiently. "Dad, let me go up to the second floor and check." My uncle was about to go upstairs when Grandpa stopped him. Grandpa's face was grim as he asked Alex, "What exactly happened?" My uncle froze for a few seconds, then said fearfully, "Chen is dead." Grandma asked, "How do you know Chen is dead?" My uncle stamped his foot impatiently. "I just know," he continued. "The elders in the village say that those who die unjustly will seek out those who harm them to claim a life. But Chen can't see. He can only rely on his ears to hear." Grandma asked worriedly, "Alex, tell me the truth. What exactly happened?" No sooner had Grandma finished speaking than Grandpa glared at her, saying in an irritated voice, "Don't say it. If Chen hears, it will be troublesome." The elders in the village say that those who die unjustly are very sensitive about others mentioning how they died. They don't want to hear it. Grandpa looked directly into my uncle's eyes and asked, "How did you get back? Tell me the truth." My uncle lowered his head and replied fearfully, "I drove." No sooner had my uncle finished speaking than another flash of lightning struck. The window panes rattled violently. Grandpa kicked my uncle, his voice furious. "You beast, you only know how to cause trouble for the whole family." Grandpa's anger was terrifying. My uncle, having been kicked, didn't dare to say a word. The chief spoke up. "Mr. Dare to say a word. Cool. You're fine. Why are you kicking Alex?" The chief said this with bloodshot eyes. Looking completely drunk, he had consumed all the white liquor on the table. Grandpa's eyes flickered slightly. He chuckled. "Chief, you're drunk. Chief, you're drunk. With rain this heavy outside, why don't you go upstairs and rest for the night?" The chief staggered to his feet and said, "No need. I can go home." No sooner had the chief finished speaking than he walked to the shop door. He pushed the door several times, but it wouldn't open. The chief stood blankly for a few seconds, then said, "Mr. Koo, why won't your door open?" Grandpa gave a dry laugh. "The door is broken, it won't open." "Chief, go upstairs and rest." No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than the chief burst out laughing, his eyes darting around as if calculating something. The chief said, "All right, I'll go upstairs and rest for the night then." The chief finished speaking and headed upstairs. Grandpa stared at the chief's retreating back. His eyes filled with deep-seated hatred. Grandma said fearfully, "Grandpa, what do we do now?" "Didn't the barber this morning say that the third person to enter the shop would be a ghost?" But Chen was clearly the second person to enter the shop. Grandpa's face was grim. "We forgot to count the barber. He was the first person to enter the shop." No sooner had he finished speaking than Grandma's eyes widened. Her gaze filled with terror. She said fearfully, "Grandpa, what do we do now?" "Chen is a ghost, and he's in the backyard," Grandpa said. "Don't panic. Chen is blind, so he relies only on his ears and nose to find his tormentor." "Alex, go upstairs with Dad." Grandpa said this with a sharp, cold look in his eye. My uncle frowned. "Dad, what are you doing upstairs? We need to find a way to escape." Grandpa picked up an axe from the ground, his face grim. "Change your clothes." After speaking, he walked up to the second floor. My uncle gritted his teeth and followed. Outside, the rain grew heavier, and the wind began to howl. Grandma hugged me close, saying fearfully, "What is happening?" No sooner had she finished speaking than I heard a thudding sound upstairs. Thump, thump, thud. After the sound, Grandpa and my uncle came downstairs. My uncle was now wearing the village chief's clothes. Grandpa's face was as cold as ice. "Alex, sit in the chief's spot from earlier. No matter what you hear or see, don't say a word." My uncle nodded. "Dad, will this work? I'm afraid Chen will recognize me." Grandpa reassured him, "As long as you stay silent, you'll be fine." My uncle obediently sat down in the chair. He was so scared, his hands trembled violently. Grandpa angrily yelled, "Humans fear ghosts by 3 parts, but ghosts fear humans by 7. Don't panic. As long as Chen doesn't realize we're afraid of him, he won't dare to harm anyone. Grandma said, Grandpa, speak softly. Don't let Chen hear. No sooner had Grandma finished speaking than heavy footsteps echoed from the backyard. Clack, clack. It was Chen. My uncle trembled all over. Dad, I'm too scared. I don't want to sit here alone. The spot my uncle was sitting, leaning against the wall, was very close to Chen. Grandpa glared furiously at my uncle, gritting his teeth. Why did I give birth to such a useless son like you? If you want to live, listen to me. No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than Chen walked into the house. The moment Chen walked through the door, a blinding flash of lightning tore across the sky. I instinctively looked towards him. That was no human, but a charred corpse. I gasped, my entire body covered in cold sweat, a chill running down my spine. After the lightning flash, Chen returned to his original form. Chen chuckled and said, Mr. Cool, I brought 2 meat-filled steamed buns and half a bowl of peanuts. Although he was laughing, Chen's face was contorted and looked terrified. Grandpa said, all right, sit down and eat. Chen took the buns and walked towards my uncle's seat, saying as he went, Chief, you try these peanuts, and I'll try your white liquor. After saying that, Chen bared his teeth and grinned at my uncle. My uncle was so scared his legs turned to jelly, and he was about to run. But Grandpa stopped him with a look. Chen sat opposite my uncle, his ghostly white eyes rolled upwards, filled with an eerie expression. Looking closely, I could even see large corpse spots appearing on Chen's neck. I could even smell a burning odor. These things clearly weren't there before. Grandpa gestured with his eyes, telling my uncle to be silent. Chen bared his teeth and chuckled. Mr. Ku, get me a drinking glass. I want to have a few sips. Grandpa replied. All right. Grandpa got a glass for Chen and poured him half a glass of white liquor. Chen took the glass and drank a few sips. As he drank, a strange gulping sound came from his throat. Irk, irk, as if he was struggling to swallow. After drinking, Chen laughed and asked, Chief, why aren't you saying anything? Don't you want to share a table with me? Grandpa forced a smile and replied, The chief is drunk and sleeping, slumped over the table. Chen stared at Grandpa, and seeing his stern expression, as if he knew Grandpa was lying, Chen's face relaxed into a smile. Brother Ku, come sit and have a few drinks with me. It's been years. After a few seconds, he continued, since I've had a drink. My uncle looked at Grandpa with pleading eyes, trembling all over. Grandpa, his face ashen, sat opposite Chen and said, all right, I'll have a few cups of white liquor with you. After saying that, he poured himself half a glass. Chen chuckled and said, Mr. Kui, do you remember the drought in the village 30 years ago? Grandpa nodded. Of course, Chen said. Back then, dead bodies filled the roads, every household ran out of food, and shops across 10 miles and 8 villages all closed down. Only your family shop remained open, and you even had meat for sale. Mr. Ku, what kind of meat did your shop sell back then? Grandpa paused for a few seconds, then replied, pork, Rat meat, snake meat, all meat I had stored up beforehand. The drought year just happened to be when it was needed. Chen gave a chilling laugh. How come I remember there was human flesh too? Grandpa replied, That's impossible. You must be mistaken. Our shop never sold human flesh. No sooner had Grandpa finished speaking than another peal of thunder erupted, crashed, as if trying to bring down the whole house. Chen chuckled. I remember the chief's mother was human flesh. Grandpa's face turned ashen. No, you're remembering wrong. My shop didn't have human flesh. Chen turned to look at my uncle. Chief, if I'm not mistaken, today is the anniversary of your mother's death. You once told me you would seek revenge on your mother's death anniversary. Why are you still sitting here? Or are you a fake? No sooner had Chen finished speaking than a blinding flash of lightning streaked across the sky, immediately followed by another resounding thunderclap. Outside, the rain grew heavier, and the whistling wind could be heard. Unconsciously, I felt as if someone was watching me. I followed the gaze and saw the chief standing at the corner of the second-floor stairs, glaring at me with eyes full of resentment, as if seething with discontent. I jumped, clutching Grandma's clothes tightly. The chief, his face grim, walked downstairs, speaking as he went. Mr. La, Hui, who changed my clothes? They're soaked. It's so uncomfortable to wear. The chief was wearing my uncle's clothes, completely drenched. Grandpa saw the chief and suddenly widened his eyes, a clear look of panic in his gaze. The chief quickly walked straight over and sat next to me, then looked at Grandpa and asked, Mr. Koo, what's with these clothes I'm wearing? Grandpa forced an awkward smile and replied, Chief, you're drunk. You're mistaken. You were already drenched from the heavy rain when you arrived. As soon as Grandpa finished speaking, the chief's eyes darted around twice in a strange manner. He said, That's not right. It wasn't raining when I arrived. The sun was still out. Grandpa replied, It was raining heavily when you arrived. Grandpa finished speaking and glanced at Grandma. Grandma quickly chimed in, Chief, you're confused. It was pouring when you got here. You were completely soaked. I offered you dry clothes to change into, but you said you didn't need them. The chief was stunned for a few seconds, then looked towards my uncle. My uncle was trembling all over, his back pressed tight against the wall. The chief pointed at my uncle and said, No, Alex is wearing my clothes, and I'm wearing Alex's clothes. Just as the chief finished speaking, Chen's ear twitched, and his expression turned ferocious. He suddenly stood up and moved closer to my uncle, making my uncle jump. My uncle fell from the chair to the ground. Chen said coldly, Alex is back. Why didn't you say anything? My uncle frantically scrambled up, hiding behind Grandpa. Grandpa's face was somber. Alex's throat is damaged. He can't speak. Chen nodded, his ghostly white eyes following my uncle, as if staring intently at him. My uncle was so stared at that he trembled all over, tears streaming down his face. The chief laughed. Alex, why are you crying? Crying so miserably. One might think your father had died. As soon as the chief finished speaking, another flash of lightning struck. I unconsciously looked towards the chief and saw a hole on his head, as if he'd been struck by an axe. and blood was still flowing. The chief's face was pale, as if he had died from excessive blood loss. Soon enough, after the lightning flash, the chief returned to his original form. I was so scared that a chill ran down my spine and my palms were sweating. I wanted to cry for help, but Grandma covered my mouth. Grandpa, his face as cold as stone, said, "I'm not dead. The king of hell won't take me." After saying this, Grandpa looked at Grandma and instructed, "Grandma, go to the backyard and get our knife. The old one we've had since ancient times." Grandma nodded. She carried me to the backyard to find the knife. That knife was very large and very sharp. But what was that rust on its blade? The knife was in the storeroom. Grandma, still carrying me, rushed towards the storeroom. But just as she arrived, she saw Chen burned to black ash. Chen gave a chilling smile and asked, "Sister, what are you looking for?" Grandma jumped, clutching me tightly. Seeing Grandma say nothing, Chen let out another strange, eerie sound. "Ah," he said, "Sister, I died a miserable death. I was hit by a car. I shouldn't have died, but he shoved me into the car and burned me alive. I hate him so much. I must have my revenge." As Chen spoke, 2 streams of bloody tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. It was truly terrifying, and my scalp immediately tingled. Chen stood right at the storeroom door, blocking Grandma's entry. Grandma stamped her foot impatiently. Seeing Grandma not move, Chen then looked sullen and said, "Wrongs have their culprits. Debts have their owners. I won't harm you, so don't you harm me." Grandma's hands, holding me, trembled. She said fearfully, "Chen, I'll burn spirit money for you. I'll perform a ritual for your soul. Please just go." No sooner had Grandma finished speaking than another clap of thunder echoed, and the rain grew even heavier. The entire sky darkened. It was supposed to be morning, but now it looked like the middle of the night. Chen's ghostly white eyes rolled upwards as he shouted towards Grandma, "You're dreaming, sister. I was burned alive. I died a miserable death. I must have my revenge. I must have Alex's life." Chen's face was contorted, looking truly terrified. Grandma was so scared her legs turned to jelly, and she almost fell to the ground. She hugged me and ran straight into the shop, Chen's strange, eerie laughter echoing behind her. Grandma hugged me and ran into the shop. Grandpa asked, "Where have you been?" Grandma shook her head, her eyes wide with terror. Chen bared his teeth and chuckled. "Sister, what are you so scared of?" Before Grandma could open her mouth, Grandpa spoke first. "My wife isn't scared. She just doesn't know where the knife is." Grandpa then told Grandma, "The knife is in the storeroom, hanging right on the storeroom wall. Go get it." When Grandpa said this, his voice was very resolute. Grandma said, "Grandpa, why don't you go?" Grandpa glared at Grandma. He said, "I'm drinking. You go get it quickly. The sky is gloomy, heavy with resentment. What you see might not be real. Hurry and get the knife." I unconsciously looked at Grandpa and saw a red string tied around his wrist. My eyes immediately widened. I had heard the village elders say, Only the dead tie this kind of red string. My grandpa has been marked by the dead. Grandma gritted her teeth and carried me to the backyard. As soon as we reached the storeroom door, we saw the chief. The chief's face was grim. He said, 30 years ago, my mother died in your family's storeroom. 30 years later, I die upstairs in your house. You wicked people. The chief's face was pale, and blood was still flowing from his head, running down his face. Grandma said fearfully, your mother's death has nothing to do with us. Your father insisted on selling your mother. And besides, you ate the meat too, didn't you? If it weren't for your mother, you would have starved to death. No sooner had Grandma finished speaking than the chief's face turned ferocious. He said resentfully, clearly, your family robbed us. Your family only robbed young women and newborn babies. Do you dare open this dry well? The chief finished speaking, pointing at the dry well in my family's courtyard. A large stone covered the mouth of the well. As long as I could remember, this dry well had never been used. Grandma trembled all over. She said, I didn't do this. Grandpa did it all. My words don't count in this house. Don't come after me. The chief chuckled sinisterly. Full of ghostly aura, he said, today is my mother's death anniversary. None of you will get out alive. No sooner had the chief finished speaking than he advanced step by step towards Grandma. Grandma retreated powerlessly, then suddenly stumbled and fell to the ground. Grandma let go of me. She said, Lily, quickly go to the storeroom. Get the knife and give it to your grandpa. I asked, Grandma, what about you? Grandma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. She pushed me away, then looked at the chief and said, Don't kill me. Please, don't kill me. He walked over to Grandma and squeezed her neck tightly. Grandma's face turned red, completely unable to breathe. Just as Grandma was about to be strangled, a bright flash of lightning illuminated the scene. In front of Grandma, there was no chief. She was strangling herself. I was trembling all over. I shouted loudly to Grandma, Grandma, let go of your hands, quickly. Grandma seemed not to hear me. Her tongue protruded, clearly about to strangle herself to death. Just before she committed suicide, she crawled towards our dry well. Soon enough, Grandma crawled to the well and by herself pushed aside the large stone covering the well's mouth. As the stone shifted, a terrifying wailing sound, like ghosts crying out, echoed from the dry well. The sound was chilling, and I even saw dozens of white smoke plumes rising from the well. The wind whistled as if carrying resentment, blowing painfully on my face like needles. Grandma suddenly showed a strange smile, then plunged headfirst into the dry well. I screamed, Grandma! I ran to the well and looked down to the bottom, seeing it full of white bones. Grandma's body was being swallowed by the white bones. The skeletons were sucking the flesh and blood from her body. I was terrified out of my wits, scrambled to my feet, and ran towards the storeroom. It took a lot of effort for me to open the storeroom door. The knife was hanging on the wall. I grabbed the knife and walked back into the shop. Grandpa saw the knife, and a look of joy appeared on his face. He held out his hand and said to me, "Lily, quickly cut this red string." The red string on Grandpa's hand was connected to the chief's hand. The chief, his face grim, said, "Mr. Bull, cool, I'm here to take your life." Grandpa glared at the chief and snapped, "I'm not afraid of you. Humans fear ghosts by 3 parts, but ghosts fear humans by 7. Once I cut this red string, your soul will scatter, never finding peace." No sooner had he finished speaking than the chief's face showed fear. Before I could even raise the knife to cut, the red string tied to Grandpa's hand broke. The chief's eyes looked at Grandpa with terror. Grandpa held the knife in his hand, staring at the chief with a grim expression. "I killed you once. I can kill you a second time. This knife is still very sharp." After saying this, Grandpa raised the knife and chopped straight at the chief. Wait, the chief stood still like a lost soul, not moving. Grandpa chopped once, severing the chief's head. The chief's body twitched twice, then fell to the ground, black blood spilling everywhere. Grandpa looked towards my uncle. "Alex, don't be scared." A red string was also tied to my uncle's wrist. My uncle was trembling all over from fear. Chen bared his teeth and chuckled. "You were the one who hit me and then dragged me into the car and burned me alive." He leaned close to my uncle as he spoke. No sooner had Chen finished speaking than my uncle's eyes widened, bloodshot, his mouth agape, blood oozing from all 7 orifices. He died of fright on the spot. Grandpa angrily stamped his foot. "Alex!" Chen cackled at Grandpa. "Everything in the backyard has come out." Grandpa was just raising the cleaver to chop Chen when his body suddenly stiffened, as if many people were holding him tightly from behind. A painful groan escaped Grandpa's mouth. He looked at me and said, "Run quickly." I ran with all my might towards the door, but no matter how I ran, I could clearly hear footsteps. Chen was chasing right behind me. The rain grew heavier and heavier. I wanted to find a place to hide, but there was nowhere. I was exhausted, truly couldn't run anymore. I looked back and saw Chen's ghastly face. He smiled at me, his mouth wide open. The rain was too heavy. I couldn't clearly hear what he said, but looking at his mouth's shape, I guessed, "You won't escape." A chill ran down my spine. It seemed I truly couldn't escape. I struggled to run, when suddenly a beam of light shone from afar. The dazzling light made me unable to open my eyes. It took a lot of effort for me to open my eyes. When I looked back, the surrounding houses had all disappeared, and even Chen was nowhere to be seen. I felt dizzy, my eyes aching, and then I fainted. And then, when I woke up again, I saw Grandpa's and Grandma's faces. It turned out I was in the hospital. Grandpa said worriedly, "You're awake? That's wonderful." I hugged my grandparents tightly and cried. I just had a terrible nightmare. It was so scary in the dream. Grandma stroked my head to comfort me. "It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Things in dreams aren't real." I stayed in the hospital for a few days, then returned to the village with my grandparents. From then on, I never had such a terrifying nightmare again.